Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to Facebook Live. It is the 19th of May, year 2021. Welcome. And here we are with our some of the members of our panel. I know a couple are missing, which is April and Kelly, who are not feeling well, so wishing them a speedy recovery and health and healing. Send our healing prayers to them. So let me go through real quick, introduce the panel. We are joined with Eileen, who is the person that keeps us streamlined, does an incredible job of it. So we're really grateful for how smooth she keeps this operation. So welcome, Eileen. And then we're joined by Louise, who is our author on the panel and a spiritual teacher. Good evening, Louise. Welcome back. And then we are joined by Ryan, who actually does spiritual teaching. He has courses on his website, and as well as does a lot of meditation and does the moderation for the Eckhart community. So welcome, Ryan. Then we are joined by Caesar, who has been away from us for a while. So welcome, Caesar, who is a channel and a spiritual teacher. Good evening. And then we are joined by Travis, who made it, who's our musician, one and only. Actually, Caesar also is a musician. So I couldn't say one and only, the other main musician on our panel and a spiritual teacher. Good evening. So real quick, I'm going to take 2 minutes and explain this. One of the things that I signed up for somehow through Tony Robbins, I got this email to join this group, and it ended up being a coursework that Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins are promoting, which is a self-building platform where you can build a coursework and as well as promote your business. Like if you were a meditation teacher, then you could put up a coursework around meditation. And it's a self-creating platform. So if any of you, and I tagged all of you, Eileen, Ryan, Travis, I'm not sure if I tagged you, but I will go back and tag you. Caesar, I'm not sure if I tagged you because I did it real quickly right before this was about to start, or I was preparing for it. But it is in the link to the group. I think tomorrow is the deadline to sign up. And you can write to their support team and see if the payments can be negotiated. But it's like $1,000 for the next 4 months, but it's worth it. Like it's a self-creating platform, and you have the business acumen of Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi, right? So Ryan and Luis, y'all were asking questions. Did y'all have any questions about it? Any more questions?
Oh, I don't. Right now, I don't know.
Okay, great.
Thank you, though.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm good.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm looking forward to, like, I want, you know, the excitement and the enthusiasm that I come with every Facebook Live or every group meditation, every post that goes on the group is that, right? To bring abundance for all. It's not like abundance for one person, abundance for two person. It's like each and every human being, no matter what, you know, it doesn't have to be, what does Eckhart say? You don't have to be a saint you can be a sinner, and you don't know if that person can make, like in one post, make a shift. And now they are the ones that are the saint, and they're leading thousands and thousands and millions of people, right? So going back to the topic, I think Louise did some homework, so I'm going to go to her first. So Kelly, Travis, and I were discussing condition patterns last week. And I gave a homework that we were talking about this pull, right? So what Eckhart really wants us to focus on is egoic wanting. Let me see if I have the exact. I even posted this recently. So he says the ego wants to want more than it wants to have. And so the shallow satisfaction of having is always replaced by more wanting. This is a psychological need for more. That is to say, more things to identify with. It is an addictive need, not an authentic one. And this comes from a new art, right? So we were talking, remember, Travis, we were talking about this pull. I've been reading Sadhguru's book, Karma, where even Sadhguru talks about in Eastern tradition, it's called vasanas. It's like the fragrance or the smell, or there is a pull of the person. And we were talking about, like, I was saying, I had given the simple example that, yeah, I may not have ever had alcohol or drugs, or, you know, you kind of think, oh, she didn't smoke, she didn't have tobacco, but Lay's chips, something as simple as a small potato chip, there was a pull. And if I saw a bag of Lay's chips, I had to eat it, right? And if you give me a big family pack, like maybe 20 years back, I mean, you give me, and watching TV, I've like gotten to the bottom of the bag, and it's pretty quick, right? Like the pull is there. So that's what, through the medical medium protocol, since last year, October, that's my last compulsion that I can see. That's very obvious to me that I've curbed, because the diet itself does not allow, you cannot have deep fried food, right? And what I noticed is in October of last year, the pull was there, but slowly now things are there. Like my son brings all kinds of chips and everything, and candy. There's lots of sugar in the home, but doesn't mean that I go open this thing and take a bite. No, there's not even a pull. There's not even a desire, and that's what Buddha says, right? There's a desire. Every suffering starts with a desire. I think he's talking about the pull. What Eckhart is talking about, the egoic wanting. So, Louise, you said you did the homework. Do you have examples of what was your pull? Go ahead. Thank you.
So I was watching the Q&A last week, and so I heard the session, and the first thing that came to mind was this pull to state my opinion. And I have found that through my journey, it goes away and then it comes up, it goes away and it comes up. And so I had thought that I was pretty much done with that. And then when all this election stuff started happening, I found myself like wanting to state my opinion and not be happy with other people's opinion. And so I did that for like a week or two. I was like, pushing my opinion on, and then it would be, because then I would listen to an Eckhart thing and he would say something like, no one cares about your opinion. You're not going to change everybody's mind, like, I'd go, okay, that's right. I'm going to stick to, and then somebody would post something and and it was making me like upset with myself, because I'm like, why am I so drawn to this? And so I, kept looking at it, and I realized that a lot of it has to do with identity. The things that I am pulled to share my opinion with is, anything to do with being a woman or being Hispanic or being a mom. I get very like ready to say my opinion. And in a lot of ways, like it had, you know, it's calm. I mean, I've always been like in the past, everyone always would think of me as opinionated because I always had my opinion. And so that is something that I'm really like looking at very carefully because it doesn't feel good. It feels like you are making the other more the other. And but feel, you know, and so part of that was, you know, not being in listening to a lot of news, or I like blocked a lot of the news media on Facebook and stuff. But I want it to be eventually where I can read that and not feel that urge to state my. So that was what came to me.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's phenomenal. Because most people would not think of that being the pull, Louise. They would even ignore it. They would just think that's part of them. Oh, that's my personality, right? And the reason we are discussing this, if the viewers and the participants, if they can, you know, give you feedback like on the live session. Don't y'all think this is amazing that you have that much of presence power, that you can see it, that you are observant enough of your patterns, because most people wouldn't even see it.
Right. And there's been a
Right.
time where I didn't see it.
Right? So that's the amazing part, that with Eckhart's teachings, now that we sit back in our awareness, now we can see, oh, we do this. Like I'm talking about the food, right? Everybody would think that, and most people that have a weight issue, it potentially could be that they're addicted to food, but society doesn't see food addiction as a problem.
Mm-mm.
It's not called an addiction. Yeah, if you were addicted to smoking, they call it an addiction. If you're addicted to drugs, it's called an addiction. Alcohol, it's called an addiction. But even with alcohol, alcohol is such a norm, especially in Western society, right? That people don't even call that an addiction, that you can be a functioning alcoholic and it's okay. It's acceptable, right? In this society. So people need to look at what is this pull. And as we cure the pull, we are actually healing it for the whole universe. It's not that Louise is healing it for herself. That pattern is going away because then more consciousness is coming through, because that pattern is blocking consciousness from flowing, right? That's what he says. Like this is, he talks about thought, but even these patterns are a block. So that pattern is not letting consciousness come through. And the moment the pattern drops, consciousness can come through more clearly. So beautiful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, did you get the gist of what we were talking about? Louise participated, so she kind of knew exactly what we. So do you know of a pattern, either in yourself or some people that you've observed around you?
Oh yeah,
Go ahead.
definitely. It's a great topic. I think fundamental part of the whole practice, right? You know, it makes me, I love the question though of like constantly reflecting on myself. Okay, what am I wanting now that's sneaking behind my awareness that I want to, bring attention to? So I think I'll sit with this for the week, kind of remind myself regularly to check in. But let's see, when Luis mentioned the commenting, I feel similar actually with answering spiritual questions. When I started getting into like moderating communities, you see all kinds of questions. And at first I was just answering as many questions as I could find and like boom, boom, boom. But then I noticed there was this desire feeling. There was this like wanting, this needing, like it's that same craving feeling that's kind of behind a lot of different things. And when I noticed that, I was like, oh, what's this? And, and so then I practice like not answering just because I have an answer that I can come up with, but also like listening to how I'm feeling, and if stillness, and if it feels good to like, if it feels right to answer rather than just answering because I can. That's one thing I'm still continuously working with. Another that I work with, I guess everybody to some degree, but it's the addiction to thinking. It's that pull to think about things, that's so strong, and certain subjects, certain life situations, certain challenges are even more tempting to really go into the mind and go into like, oh, I gotta the pros and the cons and let me figure this out, and so that's something I'm always kind of paying attention to. And it's so, like any addiction, right? It kind of happens so quickly, so seamlessly, you don't even realize that you're eating a whole bag of chips until you're at the bottom of the bag. And it's the mind, right? It's like you don't even realize you've been in an hour or two of constant thinking until, so I'd say that's where mine still is. I don't know if that might be where it will be for, to some degree, for the whole practice. But yeah, something I realized though in these studies and practices is that I noticed that that pull of wanting something has this idea of future. That's saying future is sitting there saying, oh, I'm better than now. The future is like, oh, if you just have this, or you just do that, or you just have this much money, or blah blah. I mean, there's a countless ways that it takes the form that pulls you in, but it kind of fundamentally is always like something else is better than this moment. And so noticing that, and then noticing that feeling like this moment isn't enough as it is, and addressing that source layer of unsatisfaction has helped quite a bit. Because the more as Eckhart says, the ultimate satisfaction is in our being. And I've generally felt that more and more as I focused on being. It's like, oh yeah, there's something incredibly satisfying the more we align with our presence and our being. That really helps when you start to bring that being, like you're mentioning, bringing awareness to these addictive patterns or this pull. When you already have this really deep sense of like enjoying what now, the present moment, a lot of these things that used to be able to pull us in lose their weight, their power, because it's not even close to being as good as the presence, the bliss of presence. Yeah, and yet at the same time, it's like it's been years of doing this practice that I've been slowly kind of integrating that knowing a bit more and more, because the mind's very tricky. There's this conditioning, the conditioned patterns are really ingrained in us in different layers, different levels. And so I think it's also important to be forgiving when we find ourselves slipping into a pool, to be like compassionate about it, not to beat ourselves up. I think that's another thing that actually makes it worse, is when we judge ourselves and we make it super wrong. We're kind of feeding that pattern. If you can, like smoking cigarettes is one that I did, smoke for quite a while even when I was first getting into these teachings, and it was hard to quit. And yeah, I think it was important to be compassionate with myself too, and just slow and steady and continuing to focus on what I thought would be good. It feels right. And then it, eventually it faded, and yeah. So, but the thinking one, I think that's a constant one. I mean, like just the little stuff too. Like, I'll be in the shower, and then I'll be thinking about something, and I catch him like, wait, because Eckhart, one thing he said recently that I keep reminding myself is like, was renouncing all unnecessary thought. Another term from Nasaragata, I don't think I said that fully right, but he said the radical refuser to harbor thought. And so then the question is, well, okay, there's some small percentage of thought that's actually very useful, but the rest of it isn't. And where's that, like, how do I discern? Because the mind loves to say that all of those thoughts are very necessary. And what I'm realizing more and more is that the vast majority are actually not. And but being able to like decipher that and know when to use the mind, and then how often to just really enjoy the silence, I think is an ever ongoing part of this whole journey. So
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Yes, thank you.
And I know of that whole moderating the group because when I started adminning this group, like even just a heart and a like, right, will pull us. Oh, there's a like on this post, or there's a comment on this post, right? And oh, this person needs help. And then you get pulled towards it. And then you're checking your phone too, right? So that part in 2019, when Eckhart said for School of Awakening, he said, take off all the push notifications. That's what I did. And I actually moved my text to another screen so that I don't even see it. Like I have to go move on the iPhone home screen. I have to go to the spot where the text message is. If I don't go, then I won't read your text message. Like if people who know me well know if it is very urgent, call me. Don't text me. Don't think the text message means you get instant, like I might instantly see it. Now, it has happened telepathically that when Louise and Gracie and Eileen, like they text me or something, for whatever reason, I would have picked up the phone right then, right? And then I'll see that there's a text. I may be texting somebody else and I'll see Gracie's text, or I'll see Louise's. Like today, Louise messaged me a couple of times and I was on Messenger and I saw the messages. So yeah, that is definitely a pull that is very benign, right? We don't even think that being addicted to social media, that could be an addiction. So beautiful pointer. Thank you. Eileen, do you feel something else came up other than what came up last week?
I was just going to add after Ryan was talking, because last week I talked about the conditioning of being, a hard worker, like that's how I was raised. And that's how my whole life was based around that, working hard, trying your best, and that like shaped who I was and what my priorities were. And it's not that working hard is a bad thing, but it shouldn't have been the center of who, like everything else was around that. And that's not how it should have been. And it's not like that anymore. But when Ryan was talking about, like, I can't even remember exactly what he was saying at the moment, but like, I resonated with the thinking part that he brought up. But then I came right back again to that whole idea of like, and this is happening in society now and with children, because I see it every day. Like just, well, if you just tried harder, or if you just worked harder, you can do anything. Just try harder, like, and like, that's not how it is. Do you know what I mean? Like, and like, I work on breaking that, conditioning and patterns down, like for me and my kids and students that I work with, but like society as a whole. Like, and
so what is the conditioning about just try harder?
Like if you just tried harder.
So the student is failing at doing whatever they,
or maybe
moderate.
Sometimes it's even like they just had a bad day. Like they just had like one, it might even be one D on one thing, and they're used to getting A's or B's. And well, if you just tried harder, but it also works for, I could go on forever on this, because there's issues in our society with equity, and some populations will do better than others. And then it's like, well, if they just tried harder. No, that's not the issue. And Lakshmi said something in the comments on the post and talked about how society, I wish I got to go back and see how she said that. she said, where is it at? She said, society doesn't even see work as an addiction. And she's right, they
Yes.
don't. Like, that is something. And I know that from personal experience. Like, yes, my father was addicted to that. I mean, I know that I'm the oldest of 8. I know he had like a large family and lots of responsibilities, but like, yes, it's totally, society doesn't even see it. And she said, she added that, people who work 16, 18-hour work days, they're on the cover of Forbes magazine. Like, it's deep conditioning, and it's celebrated, and that I don't think that's what we should be celebrating.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Lakshmi. Good evening. That was beautiful. That was a great insight that it's work. Work is just like food is not the norm, right? If you're eating, and here in Texas, they have those Chinese buffets, and people are eating like a whole plate full, and they've gone 3 times and had like a pile of plateful, and was considered you got how much you paid for it, right? You got more. I mean, the quantity of food is equivalent to what you paid for for that meal, right? In Texas, they give like huge meals. Like, you look at the meal and you go, how can somebody eat that much food? But there's like a large quantity of food. And then you go to California, and these like small salads, a small this thing, and you go, it's only this much. So very, very different mentalities. That's another conditioning here in Texas. The plates have to be full, like huge, large meals. Everything is big in Texas. That's the same. Thank you so much, Arlene and Lakshmi. Beautiful. Caesar, did you want to say something about what you think is a conditioning that you see, a pull?
Yeah, so conditioning is, to me, I just had this conversation with a friend the other day in regards to doing things out of habit, and routinely doing things, and how it's important to not, that's autopilot. That is what I think is, the conditioned mind running us at that time. And then you made reference to the pull. And I think the pull is our response to the impulses that the universe is constantly giving out. So when we recognize and we feel the pull to go towards something that feels good for us, I just think that's the soul pushing us there, because the soul always knows the path of least resistance to get us there. And it's always giving you little, impulses to respond to. So I think that's what the pull is. And I think that's beautiful. How you explained it. Yeah, and then conditioning is, the repetitiveness of, I'm working on this again now because, like Louise was saying, how, you find yourself responding to things. I got sucked into the whole political thing too. It was kind of funny, and I made a post about it, like saying, "I'm sorry, I give up," but it was a good observation from myself about myself, to see how I slipped back in there, where all of a sudden I thought my opinion mattered. And as we know, it doesn't. It's not going to change anything, but just the drama that is created within yourself by doing them things through conditioning. 40-something years, my opinion mattered. And today I understand that it means nothing. But yes, and that was through conditioning. And then back to the habits, every time I think of a habit or something that I'm doing repetitively, I would refer that or relate that to the conditioning that you're speaking of. And it's hard to break. So when you find yourself in routine, or doing things out of habit, just be aware of it and try to change something about it, to make it fresh and new and vibrant again, instead of the same old autopilot taking you to the same place and getting the same results. That's about making it exciting for you along your path by tweaking the habits So they're not exactly the same. Drinking your coffee every day, regardless of what it is, just find a little tweak, I think, in breaking the habits. First, recognize them, and then be aware of it and do just something to change the habit ever so slightly if you can. And it becomes exciting, because when we fall into the routine of habits and routines, things tend to get dull. And this is about being excited and vibrant, and traveling down that high intensity road to get to that high flying cloud, that high flying disc. But yeah, indeed. So break the habits ever so slightly, totally if you can, and excite yourself a little bit.
Thank you so much, Caesar.
Yes.
And during his A New Earth webcast, Eckhart had this person ask him a question. Because what Eckhart says, I don't have that passage ready, but for addiction, he says, like, when you feel like smoking, take a few conscious breaths, right? Delay the smoking, and then see if you can delay it by a little bit. If you give in, but then take a few conscious breaths, then try it the next time. And this person was able to overcome his cigarette smoking through this method. He called it during the chapter 7 or chapter 8, wherever this addiction part is. But he couldn't do it with food or alcohol. One of the other addictions, he couldn't use the same method. But Sadhguru, even in his book on karma, says the same thing. Like, whatever your pull is, like if mine was food, delay it. Like when I see the pull for food, and now for me, because it's like such a restricted diet, I don't even have any pull, right? It has to be put spinach in a blender and put tomatoes in a blender and blend it and drink that spinach soup, right? Cold soup. So it's not even any kind of, it's just something that I do. Food is now more like it just is prescriptive, very prescriptive. Automatically, all those addictions get taken care of, right? So that's the key. Feel the pull. So it requires what I feel is, over the years, it also is presence power. The increase in presence power allows us to control the pull. The more presence power you have, the more you're able to see the pull and overcome it. If not, the pull has its own momentum. It's going to take over. And then we are at the bottom of the chip bag, right? We don't even know. And we're watching 2 hours of unconscious television, and we are at the bottom of the chip bag. That's how we can get. So, okay. Are you going to talk about a tub of ice cream, Travis? Thank you, Caesar.
That's funny. I hadn't even thought about ice cream yet. But
Oh no, he's gonna relapse.
yeah. It's one of my favorites. But I like them all. I've tried news, I've tried working, I've tried smoking, I've tried chips, ice cream. I love them all. So I'll share my inner workings, and we'll see if it adds kind of fuel for the fodder for all of us. I don't know. But because the questions that come up for me in this discussion are, when I think about, and so here's what I'm wondering, is what I'm about to share, is it like next level self-deception, or is it like next level presence? Because I think about the chips, I think about the news, I think about the cigarettes, I think about the work, I think about all these things. And like, I've smoked cigarettes in my life, and I've come to a place where I'm able to not smoke. It's not a problem at all. There's no craving there. There's no desire there. And there's this part of me that wonders, like, Now, what if I had a cigarette? Would that be enough to overpower me? Whatever degree of presence there is within me, or peace or resolve, would that be enough to disrupt my world and disturb my inner quietude? It reminds me of the Lay's, on the Frito-Lay's on the bag, right? It says no one can eat just one. And so, and perhaps you have to cease to be somebody to be able to enjoy one chip. And maybe if you're no one, if you're nobody in particular, then you can eat just one. And so, because I would love to find whatever unshakable power that is accessible to one, and align myself with that, so that I'm aligned with that which cannot be threatened. And I am created a designer situation with just enough news and just enough chips and just enough cigarettes. And it was just enough. I know sorry, my internet connection's a little funky today. But if you know, created a perfect storm, and it was enough to knock you down. And you could see that oh, I need to regroup. I need to try again, because the degree of presence that I was able to find within myself wasn't as strong as those things that could overpower me. And so these are the things that I'm kind of grappling with right now, because I find I'm able to do all these things to some fair extent. I mean, it's easier if I just didn't smoke at all. But could I have a cigarette and not be overpowered? Because that's what I've noticed is in my experience, I've become increasingly able to do things like that, but not to the degree to which I would really like. Whenever I've done things like that and tried to go, let's check and see. And I do it with lots of other things other than cigarettes. I don't smoke. I almost never, ever smoke, but there are times when I do or have, and I do enjoy it, even though it's not culturally cool. In this day and age, currently. But to me, there's something sacred about it, just like a tea ceremony. You know, you boil the water, you listen, you know, you pour the water, the tea steeps, you serve your friend, or there's a ritual to it, and there's a poetry to it. And to me, I feel like because so many of these things can be bad, I don't know, are we throwing the baby out with the bathwater? What if I want to enjoy a cupcake or split it with a friend, or enjoy it? I don't care what society tells me is right or wrong or good or bad. That's not who I answer to. A mad society. I'm trying to do the best I can. Maybe I'll go walk out in nature and see if the answer comes to me there. Because that who I answer to first and foremost is the unnameable, is life. And I don't care if people understand what I do or not. Of course, I want to lend myself to our betterment in everything that I am. But am I living for the acceptance of others because of whatever the trending virtues are of today? No. So I can't live that way. So these are the things that I'm looking at, and lately I find I don't mind being undecided around these things as much as maybe I used to. I don't need answers to all these questions as much as maybe I did before. I know lately every day I've been going out and walking in nature, and that's been huge for me, just this grounding and quieting the mind. Because sometimes I wonder if all of these addictions are anchored on that addiction to thought, and identifying ourselves with those thoughts unconsciously, with our minds unconsciously. And maybe all these things are these hungry ghosts, or these pulls, these cravings, these hungers. They all come from these wants, these needs, these feeling incomplete. They all come from not knowing who we are on the deeper level and being more identified with our mental patterns, mostly patterns, right? Our habituated thought patterns. And so, so I really don't know, because to me, it's a very sticky, it feels like it's a dangerous territory to go, should I try to just eat, just one? Is there even a point to do? Should I just leave it alone? Because it's a bag of chips. I don't need them. Maybe it's better just to leave them alone. And I feel like in probably these coming weeks or coming months, I can feel that it seems as though, and perhaps I am or will be moving into a deeper understanding around these things. I should only hope so, if that would, only bring me deeper peace and allow me to lend myself to our collective betterment all the better, all the more. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Travis. And like Ryan and you speak of, it is an identification. It's not so much as identification with a thought, because like what Sadhguru says, right? The karmic imprint is on, one karmic print is our physical body, right? He talks about at the atomic level, elemental level, it's our physical body. Like my forehead is like my dad's, maybe my lips are like my mom's. This repetition, right? That all of you, maybe you have, my ears are like my dad's, they're very long, right? And I was teased all my life. Everybody called me elephant ears. All my elementary school friends call me elephant ears because they are so big. So there is a karmic imprint there, but what I feel, and that's why I talk so much about limiting beliefs and the conditioned patterns, is we become more of a conditioned pattern than allowing consciousness to flow. And the moment we allow consciousness to flow, then, as Caesar says, right, we are on that high flying disc, and we are in line with the universe intuitively. I was telling Eileen right before we started this session that intuitively, like when the School of Awakening alumni invitation came through, I had already told Gracie last year, I don't need any more courses, right? Like Eckhart's courses, I don't need any more courses. We've done enough of his teachings. I watched that website for 10 years or so, right? Since 2012, it's almost going to be 19 years of content from Eckhart. We don't need more content from Eckhart, right? More words are not going to help. But when the School of Awakening invitation came, I went, okay, if it's going to be something that is $100 a month, then I will sign up for it, right? And here I go to sign up, and there goes the School of Awakening alumni fee is exactly that. It's $100, like it's a $300 fee, and it's $100. You could split it within 3 months, and it's $100 a month. So just look at how consciousness, that means consciousness that's coming through me needs to be taking that course at $100 a month. Because if intuitively I said, if it's $100 a month, that's how aligned, like that means Eckhart needs to be paid through this physical form that's Unum. Eckhart's teachings or Sanskrit needs to be paid $300, right? So that's the alignment that I want everyone to know, that everything that, there's a course that I was talking about, right? I said, if it is less than $200, then I will sign up for the course, the one that I tagged all of you on. And I just wrote to their support desk that I cannot pay whatever their fee is, right? And in my mind, I went, if they agree to whatever I'm saying, then that means that Planetary Intelligence needs me to take that course, right? So how does a support desk go talk to whoever is heading the, there's so much communication that has to happen, right? For this to come across within a couple of days, for the payment plan to change and a revised payment plan to come up where I can click on it and on their website and actually sign up. Just imagine within a couple of days, how did they make that change? So that's the, Eileen has something.
I
Go
was
ahead.
telling you that like the same type of thing happened to me because I've been talking to people lately about wanting to, get my certification to be a meditation teacher. And I posted and spoke about it in our Evolver group. And someone recommended that I contact a place about a meditation school, and I contacted them, but it was too much. Like it wasn't something that we could. And I emailed the woman back and I said, I'm really interested and I'll keep it in mind. And then she replied to me and said, I want to let you know that you've qualified for, a scholarship. It took $500 off of still have the rest of it to pay, but still, like, I was like, okay, let's figure this out. It's obviously meant to be, let me, go through this process and get this done.
Beautiful. And that way, how many people had scholarships, even in our group, so many people got scholarships to School of Awakening, right? Or were reduced rate. Like a lot of people got a reduced rate, even though they were not alumni. So I know all the companies are actually making distance learning a reality. They're making it more and more feasible for people to sign up, because right now they cannot get people together. I can understand their business point of view. They cannot get people into venues. They cannot get 20,000 people, but they can virtually get 20,000 people to sign up, right? They can make revenue that way. Yeah, we are making revenue for them, but then at least we are getting the teachings, right? So I feel that kind of intuition can be raised for everyone. The more they let go of their patterns, the more the limiting beliefs go away. I'm a loser. Who am I to go sign up for a School of Awakening? Who am I to get any kind of reduction in fee, right? They won't even sign up. There's so many people that would not even have attempted the sign up for the School of Awakening, just out of that fear that they wouldn't get the scholarship, right? But then you're connected to Source, and if Source wants you to take the course, it will make it possible. It'll make a website change the payment plan, and you'll be able to sign up for the course, right? So make it feasible for whoever it is. So that's what I want. I know the panel members have, like Eileen was saying, right? All the panel members and a lot of the group members have, but I want each of the 70,000 group members to experience that kind of connection, that kind of trust in their connection to Source, right? That's why the group was named Exploring the Infinite Potential, because each person has that potential. So since Louise talked about identity, one of the things that came to my mind, Louise, is another pull that I felt was identification to religion. I remember, I'm not raised very much like very Orthodox Hindu kind of listening, but after Eckhart's teaching, after a few years of Eckhart's teachings, it's been like maybe 6-7 years that I have not gone to a temple. I have not performed a single ceremony ritual. There's a ritualistic tradition in every, like every 2 or 3 months, we have some kind of festival and we perform a ritual with the festival, right? There's this god, there's Shiva, there's something for some other god, there's Diwali or something. And to not participate, right? Then there's that pull, and like Ryan said, the guilt, right? That we did not do what we normally did as kids. And so religion is one source of identification. If we can let go of that pull, right? That I am Hindu. So no longer do I even have any association. I may talk about some kind of tradition, but there is no association that Hindu or what am I? I'm nothing as far as religion is concerned, right? But there is a pull. Initially, I remember 5-6 years when I had just stopped the rituals, that I'm not performing the ritual, right? There would be a guilt associated with it. So I want you to think of things that we may be using an identity, right? Being identified with, and that becomes the pull. There were some questions.
Not quite sure the meaning, but maybe somebody can help me with that.
Is there a pull to understand? A pull to know? That might be a
that
universal
came
one.
up last week. That came back last week in our Q&A, actually.
Mm.
That's funny.
Yeah, well, it's a strong one. Well, one thing I was going to mention, Poonam, from what you were just speaking on,
Mhm.
it's helped me to pay attention to the emotion underneath the pull, to kind of get more of a discernment of where it's coming from. Often pulls can be fearful or guilt or something of a negative kind of suffering quality. But other times, I'll feel like an intuitional pull that feels more stillness, feels more coming from peace. So I think the pull itself may not always be of ego or, sometimes maybe it's just curiosity, maybe it's exploration, kind of like what Travis was talking about. And so yeah, I do think there's like that, what's the state of consciousness underneath the pull, which I often feel like is related to emotion. What's the emotional, is there resistance or is there acceptance? Is there that constriction or is there like ease and peace? Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So since Louise is off camera, did you want to talk about any kind of, like, I identified the religion, right? So do you think of an identity that you have definitely let go of, and that could be a pull for, still be a pull for some of the viewers, but like we've let go over the course of all these teachings for the past 10, 12 years?
Yeah, many. I don't know where to begin.
Just do one or two, and then I'll move through the panel. Go ahead.
Sure. Well, this one, it might seem kind of strange, but like honestly, I've been feeling more and more identifying less as human, less with the physical. We all think of ourselves as humans, but like it really, human is just part of your physical form right now. That it's the vessel of our being. So that's one. When people like talk about, especially, I mean, like patriotism is a more like obvious example. Like, oh, I'm this nationality, or oh, I'm this race, or I'm this gender, or I'm this age. Like to me, all of that's really just form stuff, and it all kind of comes back to this being identified with human in the first place. Like, what's racism if you're not even human? Like that just, it dissolves. That a lot of this like meticulous stuff people get stuck on. It just dissolves when you kind of see, oh, you see somebody beyond their human form, judgment especially. But yeah, that's one. It's kind of a ethereal one, but honestly, it's what I've been feeling more and more lately is kind of this not identifying, not identifying with being human in a sense. I respect being human. I don't like say I'm not human. Obviously, I'm in a human form, but like there's something about that. And then, but also I think interestingly is being identified with the timeline of humanity, like with the collective consciousness is very or the collective unconsciousness that's in our world that's prevalent. Like I used to kind of, this is hard to explain. Maybe it's not a good one to, I don't know. There's something there. I don't know what it is, but something to like, yeah, I can't place the words. Maybe a different, more tangible one would be when I was young, I identified with being a guitarist, to the point though where like it really was a part of my identity. Like when people are like, hey, who are you? I'd be like, hi, I'm Ryan, I'm a guitarist. If you it was like I just wanted to be a rock star is really what I wanted. And so I had that identity, and I was a skateboarder. So a lot of times it had to do with like my hobbies as to what I identified with. Oh, and yeah, apologies, but I have to run. I gotta go do a meditation. Thank you
Sure.
for the reminder, Eileen. And thank you, everybody. It's been lovely.
Thank you
being
so
with
much, Ren.
See you next time.
Honor. It's an honor. Many blessings.
Likewise.
Thank you. So Luis, Ryan gave an example, I gave an example that no longer does the religion pull me. That, oh, you didn't do anything for Diwali, you didn't do anything for.
Yeah, that's something I can relate to too, because I had mentioned this before, but I don't know if everybody heard, but I was raised Catholic. So I was Catholic till I was like 18. And then I moved to California and I became part of a non-denominational Christian church for 15 years. And so there is a lot of identity in that, but I just feel like I've gotten to a point too where, like recently, my sister-in-law's mother had passed away, and recently they had a church service on, I think it was Twitter, and they did a rosary, and then right after the rosary, they did the church service. And I was really close to her mom, and it was, a big loss to the family when she passed. So she sent me the invitation to watch it. And when I started to pull away from being identified to religion, I'd go, I'm not going to watch it. It's, a Catholic. And now I've been honoring other people's religions and their, and so I was able to do the rosary and the church service, but not feel any kind of identity or any kind of mocking it or, feeling negative or positive. It was just very neutral. Like I just honored the ceremony, and that was it. And so those are things that have evolved, over time, where it's, I know like when I first had my first daughter, right away we got her baptized because that's the tradition in the Catholic Church. And then by the time I had my son, I was in the non-denominational Christian church where they believe that you don't get baptized till you're an adult. So I didn't baptize him, and I got so much, feedback from family saying that, if he died, he was going to go to hell and blah, 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 blah. And so there was that pull back then, like to want to please or to follow tradition. But my instinct was greater. And I've always been kind of kind of person that follows my instinct. So I've just followed that along the way, but just, I've learned to respect other people's religions or their beliefs, basically.
Awesome.
And I think the food is also very, it's kind of like Eckhart, medical medium is like that. Like it just happens. Like there's not a whole lot of doing, you know, you just start to eat healthier, you feel better, and you don't feel that tendency to want, you know, like for Olivia's birthday in March, or no, it was Jack's birthday. He wanted this cake that was ice cream and then it just had some cookie crumble in the middle and another layer of ice cream. And so I had taken pictures and sent my cousin, and she goes, "Oh my God, that looks so delicious. Did you have, what did it taste like?" And I said, "I didn't eat any." And she goes, "What?" And I go, "I just didn't have the desire to eat it." And she was like, "How do you not have a desire to eat that? That looks so delicious." And I go, I just lost that feeling. Like I don't, you know, I don't, like before, if I saw a piece of cake, I'd be like, "Oh my God, that's so good." And I just don't feel that feeling anymore. And that's kind of how I feel with Eckhart's teaching. It's just, things just naturally fell off or, you know, transform itself.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Louise.
Mhm.
Travis, since you were nodding, like you understood, so you have something that
Wait, so wait, sorry. I'm nodding because I'm listening and feeling what's going on. But can you help me?
you kind of understood what Louise was saying. So you were listening to her and you were nodding, like you understood her.
Yeah, but could I ask to kind of reiterate what the question is, or what exactly it is I'm supposed to be speaking to here?
So one kind of pull is an identification,
Right.
right? One way to know what the pull is identity. Like
Yeah.
you can, like people can have an identity for, I gave the example of religion, right? That's what
Right,
Louise
right.
gave an example as well.
Right.
That
Right.
you feel compelled to, there's like a feeling of guilt that, oh, I didn't participate in that certain ritual that I've been doing for 20 years. Like, what if somebody didn't put up a Christmas
Sure.
tree and it's
Sure.
Christmas and didn't put
Sure.
any Christmas decorations? Are they going to be okay?
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess
Hold
as
on.
far as
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think what she
Oh,
was
please.
asking, is there any like identifications that you've kind of let go kind of over?
Right. Or that I'm working on, or
Yes.
I mean, well, you know, when I think about that, I mean, it all kind of goes back to family and how you were brought up, right? Because those are the things that are going to be most deeply entrenched, because they're just there from this incarnation, and then just repeatedly impressed upon you in your most formative years, right? So for me, it's kind of funny because I've just, you know, as you guys know, I've grown up so counterculture. You know, for me, what was church was Grateful Dead concerts and hippie camp out concerts and stuff like that. That was how we all came together and celebrated life. And it's actually, there's so much about it that's so beautiful and so wonderful. Just like if you grew up in a Catholic church or whatever other kind of, or in Hindu religion, you know, there's community, there's family, there's acknowledgement of a higher power, there's all these things. But then as those of us who have grown up in these things, we know there's a whole lot of baggage that comes along with it too. And you go, man, there's so much about this that I like, and I don't want to be misunderstood or ostracized from my community, or whatever the punishment might be for challenging everybody else's collective sense of identity and shared beliefs and views, right? Because by breaking away, we do that. We go, well, wait, is this not it? And whether or not people want that or recognize that, they're going to feel it, and it might pose a sense of threat to these things that we just take on and don't question, because we're just born into it. We're just raised right into it. So for me, I feel like the parts of it that that I mostly care to let go of, that don't serve me so much now. Maybe they did more when I was younger, but they don't seem to serve me very much now. Is namely, you know, there's a, I guess in some ways, kind of a lack of like spiritual discipline and focus that I want that, but that's not the community I grew up in. Then I kind of branch out on my own a little bit there. And then at a certain point too, all of the intoxicants and all that kind of stuff became more of a hindrance than a help. And so letting all of that go. You know, I mean, I remember when I was younger and I would say to my elders and family members, like, I think I want to stop smoking weed. It's like, they didn't even hear me. They're like, oh yeah, it's good to take a break sometimes. You know, I'm going, because it's like, I'm going to become somebody they don't even trust. Like, you know, it's like going, you know, no, I don't like dogs, or like they're going, I don't know if I like this person, like, because that's just so normal. And it's such a part of the culture and our family and our identity. And so so that was interesting when I was a teenager, just going, you know, doing that every day since I was a preteen practically, you know, for years on end. And I go, man, I think I'm gonna stop. And so those things that, you know, I feel like it's been so much time that it doesn't bother me too much. There is still a little bit, maybe a little bit of that rub there that I'm still working out. And because like I said, I don't know if it's just never do these things ever, and that's the rule. I've tried that for years and years and years and years. And part of me goes, well, maybe as long as it's not an egoic wanting, and these things come from a being in deep alignment with the flow of life, then I'm okay with it. But I have to, you know, that's what I was expressing earlier, is sometimes that can be difficult, especially if you're dealing with substances that might even have a chemically addictive quality to it that you know has already affected you so deeply. Who's talking? Who's you know, who's is it the addiction talking, or my mind, or my deeper self, you know? So but those are the things that I've had to let go of more so. I think they're a little bit less conventional, but a lot of that kind of hippie culture stuff that I very much appreciate so much. It's made me who I am. You know, there's so much freedom in that world, and I'm so grateful for that I've been allowed to be, and I've been trusted since I was a child to find my way and put the pieces together for myself. And I'm so grateful to my parents and all of my elders for that. It feels like a real treat, a real special gift, but it wasn't without its baggage too. So I feel like there was something else I wanted to say to all of that, but it's escaping me right now. So. Yeah.
Thank you so much for deeply sharing your, that seemed like a personal, something very personal and intimate to you, like this.
Yeah,
come through you.
There's a lot of appreciation there, you know. So and I'm, you know, I think at the moment, you know, kind of grappling with some things that I know I'll work out in the, like I said, in these coming weeks, but it's all really good. So I appreciate all of this and sharing with you guys in this way, because I know it's it's instrumental in my personal process. So thank you guys.
Yeah, eternally grateful to the panel and people like Lakshmi, Gracie that show up, CC that show up week after week, right? They create the energy field. So just listening to you a little bit, Travis, what I would say is what I can feel is even the experience of, so on your soul is this impression that everything is lackadaisical, loosey-goosey, it's okay, let's go to a concert, let's go however your life was right when you were younger. But that exact experience can make you feel that if something is restrictive, that it's ego. Because it's restrictive, right? It's not free. It's not free because we say liberation or freedom is free, being free, right? And the moment, but what I feel is like medical mediums protocol, right? Like Louise and I are, and that's why I don't, for exactly what you're saying, so that it doesn't see me going, I don't really make it, oh, you have to do this. Everybody in this group needs to, you have to start doing the medical medium protocol. What I notice is my intensity of my vibrational field since last year, especially when I eat like the barley grass juice powder and eat, I mean, I've consumed the spinach soup, right? I mean, it's like intense, like you can just feel that you're being supported by the food. The fact that I'm not doing dairy, it's so easy. Just like what Louise is saying, right? There's ice cream sitting in the freezer. I've not felt any compulsion to open, and I love sugar. I've loved sugar since I was born. I was born with a sugar addiction. I'm positive I was born with a sugar. I love sweets. Like you can put like 3 or 4 pounds of sweets around me and I'll eat. I love eating sweets. I'm addicted to sugar, or I was addicted to sugar, right? But that's the purity of it. It doesn't seem restrictive at all. It's just that I know the intensity of my, so whatever benefits, it's not so much as it's egoic, the restriction is egoic. The distinction I wanted to make for you is the change to let go of the other behavior is more because it helps our vibrational energy. It raises my vibrational frequency. And the moment something, just like my sacred acoustics meditation, right? Just like the group meditation, the moment something raises my vibrational frequency, consciousness automatically wants to do that because that's the expansion, right? It wants to expand to infinity. And that infinity expansion is even the raising of the vibrational frequency. Because it's expanding, right? It's rising from wherever we were. It's rising up and up and up and up. And you can go off the charts with how much we can raise the vibrational frequency without smoking anything or doing anything, just living our day-to-day life. It's just a little tweak, right? A few supplements here, a few things to eat here. And that in itself has cured so much. It's not that I've eaten every supplement that's on his prescription, and it's not that, but I do take a lot of his supplements, right? Like the chaga mushrooms, the adaptogens that Kelly has talked about. I take lemon balm, I take cat's claw, I take the chaga mushroom tea. Like if I want to drink something, I'll make the chaga mushroom. I won't drink coffee, I'll drink that. Right? But what it assists with is the vibrational frequency. And that is my criteria. Whatever raises my vibrational frequency, I am going to do it. And it's like automatic, nothing to do with ego, nothing to do with the, and we know, right? The gut will tell us, the inner intuition will tell us, this is the right thing to do. So yeah, if there's a bag of chips, I may take 2 or 3. I'm not going to not take it. I'm allowed. I mean, yeah, he says no fats, but I'll take 2 or 3 just because I want to take it, or I'll leave it. It may be that the bag of chips is there and I don't eat it, but I don't even mind eating a couple. But the thing is that's the criteria. The criteria for everyone is intensify. I've written a document, intensify your presence practice, because you'll realize how much the universe will come assist you the moment you're on that high flying disc like Caesar says, right? Eileen, did you want to say something about this? What do you think is an identity?
I can tell you
Thank
the
you,
one,
Travis.
I can tell you the one that I've been working on 2 years to drop, to stop identifying with. And I've literally been talking with Ryan about this for almost 2 years. I can't even believe it's been almost 2 years. Is teacher. I mean, I love being a teacher. I love teaching, but anytime someone says, you meet someone new, hi, I'm, John Smith, and it's like, I'm Eileen Edwards, and it's always like, it always comes to that. It always comes to that's what I am, and that's not what I am. And so I've been working this whole time on dropping that. Not there yet, but I'm working on it. I've dropped pretty much everything else though. Even things like mom, like yes, like I mothered those 2 children, but like they are themselves their own human. Like, but for whatever reason, that one thing just really hangs on. And I think because it's literally impacts every single aspect of my life. I'm not just a 4th grade school teacher. Like I'm a teacher. See, I'm saying it again. Anyway, I'm working on it.
Thank you so much. So our jobs, the title of our job, which Eckhart kind of differentiates and says, that's a function I'm serving, right? When I'm sitting on the chair, while I'm talking, then I'm a spiritual teacher. But the moment I leave this chair and get out of this venue, then I'm no longer a spiritual teacher. I'm just a field of presence, walking in the grocery store, walking
That
in.
follows me everywhere. Like it literally is in everything that I do, all day, every day. Like it's not just because I went to school to be a teacher. Like I've literally been a teacher since I was like 2 years old. Like it literally follows me in every single decision that I make and every action that I do. So I'm constantly trying to break myself of that.
Caesar, did you want to say something about this? Thank you, Eileen.
Sure, I can totally relate with Eileen. Religious wise, I went through a 7-year stretch of trying to figure out answers, and I found myself identifying with the religions as I would study them. When I studied Buddhism, I became the Buddhist, and so on and so forth throughout the religions, and come across the power of now that we all know and love so much. And that broke me of them labels, and I still carry that today when people say, "Oh, you're a drummer." No, I play drums. Losing the labels, so to speak, because I mean, there's something about speaking things when manifesting or whatever else you're doing. The words have power. So when you say you are this or you are that, sometimes you get entangled in the identification of it, and you start to believe that's what you are or who you are, and we know that's not the truth. That's a small aspect of what one might do, but definitely not who you are. And that would be my 2 cents on behalf of Kelly. I'm paying Kelly's 2 cents today.
Thank you, Caesar.
You're welcome.
So what was this question from Cecile, Eileen?
I think I figured out the second one. I was talking to her in the chat. She's asking about if there are like events available, like you were talking about the School of Awakening, and how payment for something like that or something similar to that could be like in chunks or in a smaller amounts for her currency, like something that comes up as, you know, $300, like that's extreme for her. So she was saying, are there any things like those that are, and I don't know of any, but that's definitely, I think, something that we could talk about in the group and in the chat. I'm not sure about the first one. I've read it a couple of times, but
So she says it is,
she was talking about when you first mentioned the pull.
oh, the pool.
Yes. I think she's thinking of, when I was reading her comment, I was thinking about like the ego. So like identified with being opinionated. Reason why I don't like attending the discussions lately, because I can sense my ego loves the attention. I don't know if she's talking about these discussions. And then her questions at the end, I don't know if that was more like about the group.
Oh, I understood. Like, she is identified with being opinionated, just like what Louise, the example that Louise gave, right?
Mhm.
And then she said that she withdrew from any kind of discussions on posts. Like, and I know she withdrew from the Facebook group so that she wouldn't engage in discussions, because then that would mean that she would express her opinion,
That makes sense.
right?
It's not, my brain is not, but yes, that makes total sense.
Because she says, then I was always available to talk to, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, so what happens is when it's morning time for me, it's evening time for them. So they're available, they're online. People in the Philippines are online when I'm, or when I'm posting in the evening, they're available because it's morning time for them, right?
No apologies, Cecile. She's apologizing. It's not that she wasn't confused. I was confused. She wasn't confusing me. I was confused. But now that you said it, that makes total sense, because Louise was talking about that, and someone else mentioned about getting into the group and commenting on, it was you, Poonam, you were talking about commenting. Now the question makes sense. So I think what she's saying is, if she wants to be able to have the talk but not be in the group, she's trying to avoid that, I guess, that pull to kind of comment on others.
How many times I wanted to, but don't know how. So Travis, you want to start? Do you have something for Cecile?
Sure. Although I apologize because I'm not entirely clear again on what it is. I'm just a little unclear as to what it is I'm responding to.
If you
I mean, I
read
see the question there.
she gets uneasy because she's identified with being opinionated. The reason why she does not like attending these discussions, or because she can sense the attention, right? When people are responding, she responds and then other people respond, and she can, her ego can sense the attention. She's asking, how do I control that?
Okay.
Or even how does she able to talk with someone? Is there somebody that's available, because she doesn't want to do it in that fashion, I guess.
I see. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess, you know, what comes up for me in response to this is ideally, and this can take work for one to get to this space, of course, but ideally one would want to be able to enter into any social situation And I think that anybody can come to a place within themselves where they're able to enter into any social situation and not be overtaken by the ego. And so, and I think this relates to everything that we've been talking about tonight, because what's going on here is there is that indeed which we are, all of us. It's there is an aspect of who we are, all of us, that is indiscernible, indistinguishable. It's from one another. It's utterly the same. There is something inside of each of us that is utterly the same. It's not different from person to person to person, and not even from person to person, but from anything create that ever that comes into creation. There is something that is it's utterly indiscernible, and it's in everything. And when we recognize it in ourselves, it's very subtle, and it requires a lot of work in a way to develop our ability to discern, to parse out that which is different, that which is subject to change, that which comes and goes in time, to parse all of that out and be able to discern between that and that which does not change, that which does not change in time. It's never made more. It can't be enhanced in any way. It's never made less. It cannot be diminished in any way. It's here. It really is afoot. It really is here with us right now. And if we would refine our quality of attention between what changes and what doesn't change. And what happens is, oh, sorry, my internet, I guess, is it's funky today, sorry. But what happens is our attention, it goes outward, and it latches on to, it's not aware of, it's attention, it's life itself. It's not aware of who it is. It's forgotten who it is. And it goes, am I a teacher? Or am I a musician? You know, or am I whatever it might be? And it never, and whenever our attention, as it doesn't know who it is in its deepest essence, it's always seeking itself. And sometimes, and that's also too why we have that insatiable hunger that takes so many forms, whether it be work or dating or food or whatever it might be. And so that's also a part of that, because there's this sense of incompleteness that comes from that which does not change in time, forgetting itself, not being able to recognize itself for a period of time. And then it latches onto all these things. And so how Cecile could become better able to enter into these conversations, whether they're Facebook threads or one-on-one interactions with people from this community, or with people she interacts with in her family or at work or whoever it might be. It doesn't matter. For me, what seems to be the primary focus, and that which yields the most immediate and most far-reaching benefit is to first, for myself, I have to understand it's not always easy to find that of which I speak. It can be, it's hidden from most of us most of the time. Our essence. It's so subtle. There's nothing. What could be more subtle? I don't know. I don't think that there's anything more subtle. So we have to work to refine our quality of attention and our ability to discern. I know whenever I do it, what happens quite typically, for whatever reason, my breathing elongates, becomes deeper and slower. This is, I just noticed this, that becomes synonymous. Most often that's the case for me. So that's one way I notice when I'm taking the time to see if I can recognize that which is most subtle and not subject to change. I also notice my attention, seeing if it can notice it. It's like the attention that's usually going outward does a 180 and goes inward. And so now my attention is turned in on itself and my breathing is elongating. And now my thoughts are becoming further and further apart and a little, they're not such a rushing torrent of thought. The space, like the clouds start to break. And then now there's more space in me and I feel more able to meet any situation that arises spontaneously, because they're always going to keep coming and testing our mettle. Seeing how if we can hold, life keeps coming and going, well, can you hold your ground in this situation? Can you not get knocked off balance in this new situation? So that's what I do, is I take my attention when I'm at my best. I take my attention and I check it. I turn my, it sounds funny to say that I turn my attention toward my attention, but essentially that's, and that's one way to word it. And so by doing that, and again, it's this, it's like, it keeps refining. Like I can check and go, it's as if it's becoming razor sharp, the quality of attention. And if we can do that, maybe we could do it while we're sitting, maybe while we're taking a walk. There's that nice rhythm of our footsteps, if you can walk. And it has that effect. It's so soothing. And you start to focus on your breathing while they walk. I know for me, I'm lucky at my job. It's very, it's a very relaxed environment. And so I'm able to do that even if I seem a little goofy and my breathing gets loud or long or what, I can still focus on that while I'm at work, which is very great. Maybe some of us can do that too. So and so what happens is, then doing the dishes becomes a meditation, walking becomes a meditation, all these. And so anyways, I've rambled on about it long enough, but that's really what I feel like is going to help Cecile be able to find that ability to, then the confidence to enter into any of life's situations, social situations, and feel confident that she's less likely, and I'm talking about all of us here right now, of course, not just her, be less likely to be overtaken by the ego, and which is, the ego is just our self getting lost again. It just forgets who it is, and it gets identified with all of these transient thoughts and ideas and identities. It's just such a desperate clamoring to try to find anything to piece together a sense of self. It's like a scavenger hunt for just finding anything to hodgepodge an identity together. And it's constantly falling apart, and you're constantly building it. It's I've tried it a lot, and it's not my favorite way to be. So I'm trying to explore the other options. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Travis. Beautiful. So breath awareness, inner awareness, and before she posts an opinion, just check, bring like a meditative state, and that maybe she experiences more quality in what she's posting. And that's how I experience my posts, like with Gracie and Louise, like even saying many blessings, like I feel the flow of presence coming through. And then there's like a love, like I can feel the love between us, right? Like when Louise says something, I can feel the love from her. When Gracie says something, I can feel the love coming through, right? We may think that it's just a little heart that Gracie's sending, but I know what that heart means. Like there's so much of love coming through. Or Lakshmi says, like she puts infinity signs and she puts hearts. So yeah, our consciousness can come through even through pose. That's all we need to do. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Eileen, you wanted to explain it a little bit more? I saw your comment.
I was just trying to read the end of her comment, and I just got a feeling, and something that came up for me earlier today, and out of the blue. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I should talk about that. I almost feel like she's wanting to be able to participate. I understand she doesn't want to like comment on posts, but I'm wondering if it's because she's even wanting to participate by making a post, but then when people come and comment on the post that she would make, she feels pulled to respond and reply to those that are, you know, attempting to give her feedback. She also mentioned something about later on, she mentioned something about avoiding that which is not right. So like almost, you know, judging like feedback that would kind of come in. And that made me think of, I don't know if that's what she's asking, but it made me think of something that I went through over the last 2 years as it relates to like social media, Facebook, text messages, emails, all of it. Actually came up today at work with emails, that if I can't look at something and automatically know in a conscious state of no reactivity, like if I can't like look at it and be like, oh, okay, I know this answer, complete joy, whatever, then I don't reply. Like I don't. So for example, if I'm understanding what she's saying, if I made a post and asked a question for people to give feedback, and I looked back and people were replying, I would read them, but I wouldn't reply. Like I wouldn't respond. I might read it. Or if I found that I'm getting that that agitation, that like sense of like, oh my gosh, I need to react, then I put it down. Like I put it away, come back to it a couple hours later. If I can respond in full presence to whatever is needed, or ignore the ones that are not, hide them, whatever, delete them, fine. But like, I don't have to respond. Like if I'm asking a question, I can take feedback. So I have worked over the last 2 years, like for work, I'll pin my emails that I know that look important, but that could cause like emotion. And I pin them, come back to them in a few hours. And if I can read it and respond in full presence, I do. And if I can't, nope, it's got to stay there. I'm not ready. But the same thing like with messages, like my messenger just fills up all the time. Like it just fills up because I'm here, like I'm in this present moment. So like if I happen to stumble across it and I'm looking at it and I see something that I look like it might cause me, I don't even open it. I don't even open it. And then if I open it and it gives me that feeling, I put it down. And so I just, when I was reading it, that experience that I've gone through over the last 2 years kind of came up, because I can see how she wants to engage in this community. She wants to, you know, participate in this and get support from it, you know, so.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Eileen, for that example. Because like she's saying, right, even to say, I want to avoid it, so I'm not even going to come up to this Facebook group and stay away from it, right, is reactivity. That's what Eckhart, we were watching that dealing with unconsciousness, right, Louise and Aline? Travis attended a couple of those sessions. He was saying that's reactivity. Like we may say on a Facebook post, he should die, but that's reactivity. We are participating in the karmic cycle. So she is, by avoiding, she is participating in the karmic cycle of reaction. And that means that somebody, so when we do that, then somebody is going to do that to her, is avoid her. Right? She's going to experience like a daughter or a child or a husband that is going to see her, but just avoid her, not be, or ignore her. Right? So the pull to connect on Facebook or online, especially since right now, human beings cannot meet each other, right? We love meeting each other online for that reason, is human beings love connection. So that pull is necessary. I mean, that pull is good, right? To want to talk to somebody or say hello, but make it loving. Make it something that you're pouring out love. Your love within is pouring out, and make it a loving post and enjoy the connection and disconnect. That's what I do. Like with Cecile itself, right? I say something, we interact for a post or two, and then I'm out. Like I'm in and out of the Facebook group, right? But for the moment that I'm with them, whether it's saying something to Louise or whether I'm saying something to Jasmine or I think in the morning, Noreen is also online. So I love, she says something, I say, many blessings, beautiful soul. And then that interaction, and she says, same to you or something. And that interaction, that flow, that love flowing from me to her and back is enough. That's all we need to enjoy. And it feels like consciousness. What does Eckhart say? Love is recognizing myself in the other, and the recognition doesn't have to be the other human being. It can be that post as you're reading it, feel the love of you in that post, in the other when they're responding. Beautiful. Louise, did something come up for you? Thank you, Eileen.
I was just going to say, like, my approach is that, I'll read it, and a lot of times I don't answer right away. I just sit with it for a little bit. And so that helps too, because then you're not reactive. You have some time to digest it, and then you can answer, with without being reactive. And so that's one thing I would recommend. And then, I would say that, there's so many of us, especially, here on the panel, like if she had something personal she wanted to ask, like she could just message us. Like it's not like formal, and it doesn't have to be, like it's very light and easy. Like you don't have to like, go into this big thing. She could just message me. She could just answer, like you said, with the heart. That's like showing affection or attention to what she might, want to. So there's other ways than to just avoid. So I would just look at all the other different options before just trying to stay away, because she has things to offer to other people too. So it's not like she would just be getting, she could also be giving as well.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Louise. see ourselves as receiving as well as giving. And that way we kind of put it into a broader perspective. So beautiful. Thank you so much. Caesar, do you have any, you are so amazing whenever you respond with that overflowing gratitude and high flying disc kind of, you want to talk about how you respond, Caesar?
No. I'm extremely tired. So she's got to understand the same walls that she's building to protect herself from perhaps maybe negative comments and stuff are the same walls that she's imprisoning herself with. You know, they serve the same purpose both on the outside and the inside. I like how Louise just summed it up, and I really don't have much after that. She really did a great job.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Caesar.
Thank you.
So the homework is going to be, we are going to figure out more of our compulsions. Everybody's going to figure out what their identification is, right? And I don't know what the topic is going to be next week, but this is something that even Sadhguru talks about in his book, Karma, because these are imprints made on our karmic memory, right? On a energy body. As we dissolve these, more and more consciousness flows, and the world is ours, right? Like like Abraham Hicks says, once you're on that high flying disc, are you going to be on that disc that is low flying, where you're on the disc of discontent, anger, and annoyed, or are we going to be on this high flying disc of consciousness is flowing and being in the zone? And as Travis said, doing dishes, and you're in the zone, you're happy doing the dishes, you're happy folding the laundry, you're happy being here, right? It doesn't have to be like a major party event where only I would be happy only when there's a wedding ceremony. I'm only going to be happy on Christmas Day, but all the rest of the year, 364 days, I'm going to be unhappy, or I'm only going to be happy on the 1st of January. Like for me, 1st of January comes, goes, first comes, goes. It's the same. Every day is joyful. So beautiful. It's an honor and a privilege to have all of you. Cannot even express, infinitely grateful that everyone out there, Lakshmi, Cecile, helping support us and comments with all the insights and wisdom that was shared, and the panel members, so grateful. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening and a week, and I'll see you all on Friday for group meditation. Have a good night. I know most of you are tired on the East Coast. Many blessings.